If you have 10 interests, have watched 100 tutorials, have saved 1,000 pins on Pinterest, but have created nothing, you probably feel a very specific type of shame. Society calls this scattered. Your friends might call it unfocused. But psychology says it's neither. If you collect ideas but never create, it's not because you lack discipline or talent. It's because your brain is trapped between two states, the curiosity state and the creation state. And most people never learn how to switch between them. I'm going to show you how to bridge that gap in the next 10 minutes. But first, if you're someone who has a graveyard of half-finished projects and a mind full of ideas, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. All right, let's get back to why your ideas just sit there collecting dust. So, here's what most people don't realize. The problem isn't that you have too many interests. The problem is that nobody ever taught you the difference between collecting and creating. For the last decade, the internet has trained you to consume inspiration endlessly. You watch Anna Howard talk about digital gardening. You watch Odysseas explain time management. You save quotes, screenshot tutorials, bookmark articles, but all of that is collection. And collection feels productive. It feels like progress. But it's not creation. Psychology calls this the research trap. Your brain gets dopamine from learning and discovering. So you keep researching, keep planning, keep organizing, but you never actually make the thing. Why? Because creation requires something that collection doesn't. Exposure. When you create, you risk being judged. When you collect, you stay safe. Let's break down what's really happening and how to escape it. 1. You experience creative paralysis, not creative inability. Here's the truth. You aren't stuck because you lack skills or talent. You are stuck because you have too many options and no decision framework. Research shows that when people have more than 3 choices, decision fatigue sets in. And you don't have 3 interests. You have 10, maybe 20. Your brain looks at all of them and freezes. It asks, which one is the right one? Which one will succeed? Which one am I actually good at? And because you can't answer those questions, you don't start any of them. Think about it. You want to learn animation, music production, writing, graphic design, coding, and maybe start a YouTube channel. Every single one of those requires years of practice. So your brain does the math and says, if I pick one, I'm abandoning the others. If I pick the wrong one, I've wasted my time. So instead of choosing, you research more, you plan more, you wait for the perfect clarity that never comes. You aren't failing to create because you're lazy. You are stuck in analysis paralysis. And that's not a character flaw. That's a decision-making problem that has a solution. 2. You use the priority matrix to choose what matters now. Here's where you escape the trap. You need a framework to make the choice for you. One of the top comments on the most popular video about this topic got 824 likes. It said, I made an XY plot where X is how sad I'd be if I never explored this deeply, and Y is how excited I feel about this right now. That's the priority matrix, and it's exactly what you need. Grab a piece of paper, write down every single interest you have, then plot them on 2 axes. The x-axis is regret. If I died tomorrow and never did this, how sad would I be? The y-axis is excitement. How much do I want to do this right now? What you'll find is that most of your interests fall into 4 categories. High excitement, low regret. Those are distractions. They're shiny, but they don't matter long term. Low excitement, high regret. Those are future projects. Defer them. Low excitement, low regret. Delete them. But high excitement, high regret. That's your focus. That's the one interest you pour 80% of your energy into right now. Psychology shows that people who succeed with multiple interests don't balance them equally. They use the 80-20 rule. They pick one primary interest and make real progress. The rest go into maintenance mode. You can have it all, just not at once. 3. You apply the creation trigger to break the research trap. Now, here's the problem. Even after you pick your focus, you'll still be tempted to keep researching. You'll tell yourself, I just need to watch one more tutorial. I just need to read one more book. I'm not ready yet. But here's what research actually shows. The best way to learn is by doing, not by studying. Psychology calls this active learning. You retain 10% of what you read, but you retain 90% of what you create. So if you watch 100 hours of tutorials but never make anything, you've learned almost nothing. But if you make 10 bad projects, you'll learn more than someone who studied for a year. So here's the rule. The creation trigger. Every week, you must create something. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be finished. It doesn't even have to be public. But you must go from idea to output. If you're learning animation, make a 10-second clip. If you're writing, publish 300 words. If you're making music, finish one 30-second loop. The creation trigger forces your brain out of collection mode and into creation mode. And here's the kicker. Once you create something, anything, your brain shifts. It stops seeing your interest as a fantasy and starts seeing it as a skill you're building. While other people with multiple interests stay stuck in the planning phase forever, you'll be someone who actually makes things. 4. You stop comparing your beginning to someone else's middle. Here's where most people with multiple interests sabotage themselves. You scroll Instagram, you see someone who's been drawing for 10 years, someone who's been coding since they were 12, someone who's mastered 3 instruments, and you think, I'll never be that good. Why bother starting? Psychology has a name for this. Social comparison spiral. In the span of 10 minutes, you've been exposed to the results of years, maybe decades, of practice in 50 different crafts. Your brain can't process that. So it assumes everyone is naturally talented and you're just behind. But that's not reality. What you're seeing is the highlight reel of people's mastery. You aren't seeing the thousands of hours of bad work they did to get there. One of the top comments on a viral video about this said, "Avoiding creative jealousy is big. I can relate." And it got 3,200 likes. That's because this is the silent killer of creators. You let other people's results stop you from starting. But here's the truth. Every single person you admire was once exactly where you are. They had 0 skills. They made terrible work. They felt like an imposter. The only difference is they kept going. They gave themselves permission to be bad at first. And that's what you need to do. You don't need to be great on day 1. You just need to start. Your first animation will be janky. Your first song will be off-key. Your first article will be rough. And that's exactly how it should be. You aren't behind. You're right on schedule. 5. You realize that creating imperfectly is better than researching endlessly. Here's the final shift. You've been treating your interests like they're supposed to be perfect before you show them to anyone. So you keep them private. You keep them in draft mode. You keep them locked in your notes app or your hard drive. But creation isn't about perfection. It's about expression. Psychology shows that people who create regularly, even imperfectly, report higher levels of life satisfaction than people who consume passively. Why? Because creation gives you agency. When you make something, you prove to yourself that you can turn ideas into reality. That builds confidence. That builds identity. That builds momentum. Think about the people who manage multiple creative interests successfully. They don't wait until they're experts. They create messy experimental work and share it anyway. They're not delusional. They know it's not perfect. But they also know that done is better than perfect. And every time they finish something, even something small, they're reinforcing the identity. I'm someone who creates. So, stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for the right moment. Stop waiting to feel ready. You will never feel ready. But you can start anyway. And once you do, everything changes. Here's what this means. If you have multiple interests but create nothing, it's not because you're scattered or undisciplined. It's because you're stuck in creative paralysis. You don't have a decision framework. You're trapped in the research loop. You're comparing your start to someone else's finish, and you're waiting for perfection that will never come. You aren't broken. You're just one framework away from becoming a creator. Here's what you do this week. 1. Make your priority matrix. Plot your interests and choose your 80% focus. 2. Set your creation trigger. Commit to creating something, anything, every single week. 3. Give yourself permission to be bad at first. Every master was once a disaster. If you're someone who's been collecting ideas for years and you're finally ready to create something, drop a flame emoji in the comments so we can find our tribe. And if you want to understand the psychology behind your creative mind, hit that subscribe button right now, because the next video might just change how you see your entire life. I also share deep psychology insights every week in my newsletter, link in the description. No fluff, just the stuff that makes you go, oh, that's why I'm like this.